declare the meeting open. Do we have any apologies or leave of absence today? No? Okay. I acknowledge that we have the following present. We have Councillor Bill Harvey, Councillor John Kelly, Councillor Ben Loberger, Councillor Michael Dudder, Deputy Lord Mayor Linda Sherlock, Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds, Alderman Marty Zuko, and Councillor Louise Elliott, and myself.
Excuse me, Chair.
Oh, sorry. And Councillor Gemma Kitsos. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Move on to country. Firstly, I'll advise that all present that an audio recording is being made of this meeting, and that all persons attending the meeting are to be respectful of and considerate towards other persons attending the meeting. Language and conduct at the meeting that could be perceived as offensive, defamatory or threatening to a person attending the meeting or listening to the recording is not acceptable. And for the purposes of the recording, elected members should wait for the chairperson to announce them before speaking. I would ask that if you do want to speak, please put your hand up. I will make every effort to ensure that I include you in order so that everyone gets an opportunity fairly and equally. I also request that all mobile devices be either turned off or put to silent. And what else have we got here? Okay. Acknowledgement of country. In recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the Hobart City was built. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I require a confirmation of minutes, please. Linda, Deputy Lord Mayor, all those in favour, please.
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Motion carried. Any consideration of supplementary items? Are there any? No. Any indications tonight for conflicts of interest? None? Okay. Any request for a transfer of agenda items tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes?
Request to transfer 4.2 from the closed into the open meeting, as whilst it relates to disposal of land, it isn't a competitive commercial sale, and I think it's in the public interest that these debates from the very beginning be held in the open, given we're custodians for the public land of the domain.
Okay. So you have the move. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion?
Could I get some advice from the
Sure.
CEO, please, of why this is in the closed and how important it is to retain it in the closed?
Well,
Or from the public officer or the legal officer, if we have one.
so the provision is made in the Local Government Act specifically to deal with the disposal or the consideration of disposal of council land. I absolutely agree. In due course, it certainly does need to be presented to the public. At this stage, again, it's very preliminary, and it's appropriate that the controls of the closed meeting be provided, so the council can actually obviously this is its first consideration of the matters.
Do you wish to speak against the motion?
Well, if it's put into closed, it's been put into closed for a reason, and it will come into the open at some point. So I'm happy for that process to persist, like we've always done with closed items. If you want to move into the open, that's your choice, but I won't be voting to support that, even though it's already half in the open already now. But I won't be supporting a shift into the open, because there might be things that come up in the closed that we want to say that we'll be reluctant to say in the open.
Okay, I'd just like to point that Councillor Ryan Cossart is present as well, so we've got him for the record. And
I just want to ask, through you, Chair, to the CEO, whether the guest speakers, if we were to make a decision to move it into the open, they might need some notice of that, maybe?
Well, look, I think that would be appropriate. Obviously, they have been briefed on the proposal going, as is usual, for these types of proposals for the disposal of land to the close, so it would be appropriate to give them a heads up.
And yeah, I guess from my perspective, I'd rather sort of allow this workshop to proceed on the basis that it's what everyone is involved is expecting, on the basis that it would then be a public, be a process that would be public. at the next stage if the council wants to go forward with it.
Yeah, that's usually the way these things progress. Is obviously initially considered under the closed seal, and then obviously undertaking a public engagement around public lands and all that happens around that.
Okay, so Councillor Dutton?
Thank you. No, I appreciate the fact that it's been suggested to move in the open, and I'm quite supportive of that. But my reluctance is that the recommendation from the CEO is to have this in the close, which I support. And secondly, if there are any issues or matters that we want to be frankly and candidly express and maybe inhibited because it's in the open. And thirdly, the fact that it is coming in the open later, I'm quite happy. There's nothing for us to hide. Due to accountability and transparency, at the right time, it'll come to the open. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Elliott?
Just a couple of questions, please, through you, Chair, to the CEO. What would be the harm of this being in the open, given it's not a commercial sale?
It is disposal of land, so it doesn't have to be a commercial disposal, it has to be disposal of land. So
Yes.
this is what's intended, is to provide councils with the ability to have a frank and fearless discussion in close before it determines whether it is a proposal that councils wish to progress with. Again, in terms of there are factors that need to be considered in terms of the legal elements of whether we are able to dispose of it, whether compliance with the title, with the act. There's just a lot to work through with it, which is why it's suggested that it be dealt with in the close, because again, it may well not even progress to a point where it gets to the open. So,
And one final question, please. Is frank and fearless debate a valid reason for putting something in the closed? Shouldn't we have frank and fearless debate all the time?
the valid reason for putting it in closed is that there's a specific provision that says proposals for the disposal of land or the acquisition of land are to go into closed. So in terms of that's the reason, I'm just
But that wasn't my
trying to answer
question.
your
My
question. I did
that
answer
wasn't. No, my question was: is frank and fearless debate a valid reason under the regulations?
I've just answered that question.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to CEO. Look, I've heard about this some time ago. I believe discussions have been going on for a while now. How long has this discussion? Excuse me.
Sorry, point of order. The point of order is that we're discussing an item that's in the closed. And I move that the motion be put.
I'm responding to what the
I've
CEO
moved
said.
procedural.
Thank you. I
We're
think
not going to
we'll
be
just
shut
do
down
the.
again, are we?
We're just going to do the point of order first.
We're
And that
discussing
is
a closed item in the open.
that I think it is relevant in that we were distracted from the point. So I will uphold that.
Just before we do that, I just want to get everyone's attention. Point of order is fine. So what's the point of order? A procedural motion is completely separate. It's got nothing to do with a point of order. So let's understand meeting procedures. Now, what's the point of order? I'd like to hear the point of order. Right? If someone wants to.
No, I've already covered that.
Sorry,
I'm speaking through the chair. Respect the chair, please.
You've made a ruling, Chair.
Respect the chair.
Thank
I'm asking you a question.
Yep, thank you. And my understanding was that the point of order was that we were actually discussing something left of field, and therefore I had already ruled,
Okay,
rightly
fine.
sorry, and as a result there was a second request for to put, which I know that they seem to coincide. I will at that moment, however, now rule that we will put the motion for the moment. I appreciate that you did want to speak, and I appreciate that you were still. But so to put the motion, I then ask all those in favour of the motion be put, please say aye.
Aye.
What's the motion, sorry? The procedural motion or
The
Councillor Elliot's
the motion itself, that
The procedural motion.
There's a motion
to
first.
be put, which was that it was to be moved. So therefore,
No, it has to be Councillor
oh,
Hartley's
sorry, it has to be
motion.
the motion to be put
First,
first. That we
yes.
agreed that it's going to be
Procedural
put,
motion.
and then we can vote on it. Yes.
Yeah.
So do you agree? Therefore, those who agree that this motion now be put, could you please say aye?
Aye.
Those against?
No.
Okay, we need a show of hands. Those in favour, please raise your hand.
In favour, councillor Lohberger, councillor Pitsos, Deputy Lord Mayor, councillor Harvey,
Those against?
councillor DeSilt, councillor Kelly, councillor Elliott,
And
Alderman Zuko.
And me? Sorry, did you get me?
And
Sorry.
Five.
So the motion is lost. So, okay, so we'll
So
continue,
keep
so therefore...
discussing a closed matter.
Yeah, we're going to
So-
continue.
No,
discussing a
we're
closed motion.
actually discussing whether we're going to move the closed motion. We're not discussing the closed motion at this point. So as a result, we have Councillor Kelly, and then we have Councillor Elliott, and then we have yourself. Oh, sorry, no, it was Councillor. It was Alderman Zuko. So if you could continue, please, Councillor
Point
Kelly.
of order, Chair. I'm just a bit concerned that we may be operating in a way that's contrary to the Local Government Act, which doesn't allow us to actually. It's really dangerous for us to be discussing in detail a matter in open that's already been
With respect,
identified
we're
and
actually not
closed.
discussing the motion. We're simply discussing the concept of moving the motion, which is completely different and separate. We're not actually discussing any
Well, can I just ask, Chair, that you keep an eye on that, please?
Yeah.
And also, Chair, there's actually 11 of us here, so it can't be 5-5.
6-5.
So, so I for Harvey, Lohberger, Pitsos, Deputy, and Lord Mayor.
You missed Ben.
Yeah. You missed me, I think. No.
Mr. Cutter.
Yeah. I had my hand up.
Sorry.
So it's 6-5.
6-5.
So the motion is now lost,
Yeah.
so
No, it's
therefore...
not passed.
It's passed, okay, sorry. Okay, so if it's passed, therefore we will not be continuing discussion, we will now put the motion. So all those in favour, please say aye. Oh, sorry. If all those in favour of moving this, this closed item to open, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say aye.
No, those against say no.
No, sorry, I'm just, those, okay, so we'll do a raise of hands. So therefore, those in favour, please raise your hand.
Moving to open is Councillor DeSilt, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Duff, is your hand up? No. Alderman Zuko, Councillor Elliott, and you're in favour as well, Deputy. Right, those in favour of moving to the open, those against, and Chair.
Yes.
There's 6.
So,
Those against? What have we
I
got?
think there's a confusion.
Yeah,
could you
go
go
again?
okay, so those in favour of the motion to be moved to open, please raise your hand.
Okay, in favour is Councillor DeSilt, Councillor Kelly, Alderman Zuko, and Councillor Elliott, and are you, sorry, Alderman Bloomfield. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And those against, please raise your hand.
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Lohberger, Councillor Kitsos, Councillor Dutta, Deputy, and Lord Mayor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So,
5, 6.
so the motion is now lost. Yes, so
Okay,
the
I'm
motion,
on one opioids at the moment. Jesus.
so the motion will now remain enclosed. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so we'll move now to reports. And we have first 6.1, the Capital Works Program. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for Christian to set up. So Christian is always our acting capital projects manager at the moment, so he's coming to present to you on the mid-year review. It's a little bit different to what we've done before because we don't always provide a workshop item for council on the mid-year review, but it is actually a good governance thing to actually do that. Good opportunity to have a look at what we started with and where we've actually got to now, and what that might bode for the rest of the year as well, and gives just an opportunity for council to formally have some comments as well at the same time. Over to you, Christian.
Okay, so thank you. There'll be a chance to ask questions either after the slides or at the end, so please don't be shy. So as you're probably aware, 33.3 was allocated in the annual budget at the in June, July. This has since revised to 36.8 to include state and federal government grants. A large chunk of that is the South Hobart Ferry program, the Greater Hobart Ferry Service Expansion Project, which leaves a budget of 23.7 that we are managing as part of the Capital Works project program. If you look at the pie charts on the right, out of that 23.7, 6.6 has been spent, 3.5 has been accrued, and 13.7 is remaining. I have a graph showing the forecast and the actual spends compared. So what you'll notice is, as is typical with construction programs, the majority of the spending is going to be happening at the end of the year, just through the nature of the business, because you start with survey, design, so forth, and the big ticket items come at the end of the year. Now there's a lot of lines here. The blue line is last year's expenditure. The orange line is this year's up to December. The pink line is the mid-year review forecast, and the orange line on the top was the original forecast at the beginning. So what you can see is that at December we were 8% below the projected based on the beginning of the year forecast, but we anticipate to make that up throughout the rest of the year hopefully, and be around even in May. The other thing you'll notice is that compared to last year, we are 11% ahead of the game. The final thing I wanted to point out is that you can see last year there was a big bump between May and June where a large number of invoices were paid. We're hoping to move that forward this year. You see between February and March we go from 49 to 68. So that's going to buy us a little bit of time for the final quarter to readjust the program as we need it and try and make sure we expend as much as we can. In terms of major projects, there were 3 major projects this year. Major project is over $1 million. Out of those 3, 2 of them are more or less complete. Newtown Rivulet Estuary Restoration Project, that's at the final planting phase, and the Queensborough Oval Change Room redevelopment, which should be completed this month. The Maryland Road Bridge is finalizing design, and we are sending out the communication today or tomorrow to start abutment strengthening works. So that should be starting very shortly. So far we have completed 27 of our projects. I think in total there were 65 more or less projects. The 27 are completed with, at the time of this being written, 475 returned back to the program. One thing to point out for that 475 is that obviously a project's completed, but there might still be some late invoices and charges that come to the project. So the 575 might not be the final number, but that was the number at the time of putting this information together. And then as of the mid-year review, we had 5 project requests that we were unable to fund, with a value of $357,000. These have been added to next year's project priority list. And this excludes any newer key strategic projects such as the pump track design and construction, which is valued about $600,000, or the Wellesley Dog Park, which is $150,000. So any new projects will require either additional funding or redistribution of the existing funding, project prioritization, and so forth. And with that, that's my presentation over. So we're happy to take any questions you have.
Alderman Zucker?
Yeah, just with the 5 projects that were that remain unfunded, how are they sort of sort of, were they scaled against the other projects as to why they didn't make the cut?
So these are, yes, so every year there is a selection criteria. These didn't make the cut for last year. But for example, the St. David's Park CCTV, because of some antisocial behaviour that's been happening, the request was made to try and bring that project forward. And it was unsuccessful. So right now these will be on the priority list for the 2026-27 projects.
My question was, why didn't they make the priority? If we got some, there's a couple of projects there, to my point of view, which are very, very important. One is the St. David's Park CCTV. I just need an explanation as to why something as important as that didn't make.
Yeah, there's two things we'll look at. So one of them will be available funding. It's actually in there. So at the moment, mid-year, we're about minus 100,000, which is there and thereabouts because there's still plenty of other projects to actually deliver there. So we're within the ballpark there of being relatively comfortable with that, but not necessarily comfortable in terms of bringing other new projects in, or not a lot of new projects in. That's the first thing. The second thing is then when we look at any projects that get put forward through the year, through a budget year, one of the things we're going to consider is, okay, can they wait to next year? Is it possible for them to wait to next year? So that's a sort of a bit of an evaluation we'll need to do on each of the projects that actually come forward. We like to, if we can, pivot. So there may still be opportunities, even though we're only in mid-year, to pivot for some of these projects, such as the one you mentioned there, because they don't require too much in terms of design and so forth. It's more about pre-ordering equipment and bits and pieces like that. So there's still opportunities for those ones there, which we'll keep looking at, but ultimately we're trying to actually manage within the funds we've actually got in the program as well at the same time.
Another question. So how do you weight it? And I look at security versus cycleway. How's it weighted? Security, cycleway? Can you just explain to me how that's weighted?
Yeah, so one of the other things you need to recognise with this one is some of these ones will come up during the year, so they haven't actually been identified as a project before then. There's some other things that have actually come into play that have then made it more of a priority there, so they haven't been in our window, if you like. And then when we're trying to look at all the different projects that actually come up during the year, we have to actually say, okay, where do they fit in the piece in terms of, is this one more important to this? Maybe that part of it's more important to a group of people. Maybe this part of it's more important to another group of people as well at the same time. So we've got to look at those different competing priorities.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got Councillor Lohberger next.
Thank you, Chair. I just had one question. It was just about these as well. It was about the Sunnyside Road stormwater main. I just wondered what was the risk profile of that. I assume it's not going to pop anytime soon, but it does seem to be sort of what Alderman Zuko was saying, really. It seems to be an order of importance above some of the others there. So I guess it's maybe not a question for your team, but I assume you guys did do some work on that one. How badly is that needed?
Yeah, so looking at those ones there, we do have a priority for stormwater projects because it's one where we actually want to put some more money into. We recognise that's one of our priority areas to actually deal with. This is the project that's actually coming up next financial year. In terms of the risk profile associated with that, whether we do that now, whether we do it next financial year, it's not going to make too much difference in terms of that side of things, if you like. In some ways, it's actually to do with are we ready to actually go and do that project as well at the same time? Have we got the resourcing and so forth? Can we actually spend the amount of money between now and the end of the year to actually justify doing that? So at this stage there, for that particular one there, it's actually probably better to actually organise it in next year when we've actually a little bit more developed in terms of the project as compared to doing it this year.
So just to confirm, I guess what I'm hearing is it's an upgrade. It's not a replacement of currently failing infrastructure.
No, it's an upgrade. That's
great.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Kitsos.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted an update on the Wellesley Street dog park and where that was coming into the funding. I heard you mention it, but didn't catch which financial year that was going to.
So as of now, it is a priority one project for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be considered by the council next week. in terms of whether they seek to change that.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Because if not, I'll need a mover for this motion, please. I saw Councillor Lohberger would want to move. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I believe now we are moving through to items for workshop. So there'll be no motion required at this point. So we have 7.1, Tasmania Football Club briefing. I believe we have.
Yeah, just invite Brendan and
Thank you all.
yeah, that's yours.
Thank you.
Just chopping it up, mate.
Bill.
John, yeah.
Okay, Ben.
Anna. Hi.
Brendan, Anna, Brendan, Kath, nice to meet you all. Thanks for the opportunity to come down and have a chat. We've been here before, Michael and your team, and we've had a few chats and enjoyed some constructive discussions. But this is the first opportunity to speak to the council. So thank you for your time. The first I think the conditional licence was issued in April 23. So coming up March, April, this will be our second sort of birthday. A lot has happened. Since then, we've been sort of focused mainly on the establishment of the football club and coming out of the ground. And clearly last year we had a sort of a parliamentary approval process for the stadium, which was a condition of our licence. But every decision we've made so far, and the decisions we'll continue to make as we continue to build the club, have been informed by community, by whole estate. So I just want to hand over to Kath, who's our Head of Marketing and Social Impact, to talk us through the extent of some of those consultations.
Yeah, so obviously this is just an image, a compilation of images, I think, fair to say, of some of the day-to-day experiences that we have on the road. And in fact, our team, me included, have been on the road for the last week and a half, back out in communities across the state. This tour is our third one, but it's officially known as Lap of the Map. And during these sessions, we connect with our constituents. And as you'd be aware, we've got over 110,000 founding members here in Tasmania. And we are a club that's built on community, and we take that responsibility extremely seriously. And I think this is probably represented in not just these actions, but some of the things that we'll talk about during this session today. We'll probably jump to the next slide. Oh, we're dropping. Fantastic. So off the back of the work that we do in community, and as I said, we do take it genuinely very seriously, we set about to determine our purpose and our values. We don't call them purpose and values, we call them the Devil's Way and Devil's Why, because more and more, obviously in the corporate world, but in the world of sport, people don't necessarily buy into what you do, they buy into what you stand for. And so for us, we're going to be kicking a red leather Sharon around a green piece of grass, but we're actually much, much more than that. And so we set about to get input from stakeholders, from community, from youth, from our own people, from our board, and from also our alumni, to really develop our purpose and values, or our Devil's Way and Devil's Why. And unlike other clubs that exist in the AFL, we might say that we're the oldest club in the league that's never played a game. We've got 160 years of heritage that's come before us, and we strive to honour the map, but simultaneously to honouring the map, we want to inspire the future. We fundamentally believe that this club is a transformational opportunity for Tasmania. We'll talk more about that. But whilst we surge to the future, and obviously we look to inspire particularly youth, whilst doing that, we must really, we stand on the shoulders of those that have come before us, and it is a really, really important part of who we are and what we stand for. You'll see here just some of our values. We say our Devil's Way
There's 8 of them, which is actually a lot. We tried to condense them, but they're very colloquial, and I think they probably represent how we, culturally, as an organisation, are building this footy club. And I'll just touch on a couple of them. It's a privilege for us to do the work that we do. That's not lost on us. And we all believe that we are links in a chain, as I said. Beyond the boundary, as I said, it's not just about elite men and women athletes playing in the AFL and AFLW. It is much more than that, and we know and respect and recognise that. And the last one that we'll talk about is levelling the playing field. From our perspective, we have a fundamental opportunity, particularly from an equity perspective, where our men and women will enter Australia's biggest sporting league simultaneously. And we seek to create an inclusive and a belonging culture. And through proof points like starting together simultaneously, we think we can create some really big change here in Tasmania.
Thanks, Kath. So I just want to spend the next few slides illustrating for some of you what we are planning on building over the next few years, what this is going to look like. I gather not everyone appreciates football, understands it, so I'll keep it at a pretty high level. But to illustrate what a sort of a modern AFL club looks like and where we're at and where we're probably heading to. So the first thing is a club is comprised more of just 1 or 2 teams. We're going to have a number of programs operating simultaneously, and it begins with the VFL. So that's our sort of runway competition. We'll be running over the next 2 years as a sort of runway into AFL. That'll be VFL and VFLW. VFL, we commence round 1 March 2026 at North Hobart Oval. We'll be playing 5 games at North Hobart this year, and 3 of those will be double headers. So we'll be featuring men's and women's, same location, same time, throughout the state, and we will be playing throughout the whole state, York Park, Launceston and Dial Park and Penguin as well. VFLW, the women's program starts a little later, shorter truncated fixture. AFL commences March 28, AFLW same year, but once again later in August, runs through to December. We'll be running a Devils Academy as well, so as a new establishment team, we get the benefit of local talent, so it means we can reap what we sow. It means that if we invest in young talent, boys and girls, and contribute to the development on the field and off the field, fast track them to elite status, it means we can just take them. It means they're not subject to going to a draft and ending up all over the country, and I mean, that's really important pathway, and it's something we'll be investing in. That will be whole estate. The program's delivered whole estate. It'll be based out of Kingborough. Melbourne clubs, there's a thriving wheelchair competition. I think 8 of 10 Victorian teams compete in that. It's something we'll consider down the track. And the other thing is, just touching on what Kath said before, and it's a point that was perhaps lost on people last year, particularly during this debate around the stadium. This is going to be so much more than a football team. Sport, and not just football, sport in this country has never been more powerful in providing the means to bring communities together. At a time when communities perhaps never been more fractured and divided, perhaps amplified by social media. All we do is just yell at each other all day and people go to their camps, and sport's one of those few institutions that bring people together, people from all walks of life, building stronger communities, better communities, more cohesive communities, healthier communities. And you know, I guess when it comes to sport, the AFL is a significant cultural, social institution in this country that can shine a lot on issues, that can raise standards, that can change things for the good, impact society positively, and we'll talk a little more of that later. So a number of programs operating simultaneously in one club. The playing personnel, we have lists. We're going to have a whole bunch of athletes, hopefully some coming through the pathways, local Tasmanians, but a lot will be coming from all over the country. Facts are 60% of lists come from Victoria, South Australia. So we'll have AFL list, W list comprised of 40, 45, 30, 35 players, VFL lists are slightly different. They're part-time, so there'll be young athletes starting working, but continue to sort of develop their craft as athletes and really realising their potential and hopefully getting a spot on an AFL list. I've touched on the academy, I've touched on wheelchair teams, and I've touched on social impact. Facility footprint, okay. With these athletes, with a professional administrative staff, commercial staff, responsible for generating revenue, there is a very high benchmark in facilities, particularly the AFL around the country. The benchmark is somewhere around 10,000, 12,000 square metre facilities. Hawthorn just finished theirs. It's about 14,000. Adelaide's come out of the ground. The old club I was involved with, Richmond, is just doing a massive extension. These are becoming increasingly important in attracting talent and providing an environment for athletes to develop, grow, to realise potential, to form teams, to compete and ultimately to win. So the facility that we're building at Kingborough, it's about 9,000 square metres. As Kath said, this will be the first time in the history of the code that you have men's and women's programs coming out of the ground together. So you're not retrofitting women's teams and facilities onto a infrastructure 100, 120 years old. We get the chance to deliver this from stage one, indoor sports, training facility as well. So this will be sort of benchmarked at the best sort of third or top third sort of facilities of the AFL. These things aren't inexpensive. The AFL and its clubs are a not-for-profit enterprise. There are no dividends, there are no owners. Everything a club generates goes into driving the club and the various programs that comprise the club, as I touched on before. The biggest clubs average about $100 million revenue. The top 3 or 4, perhaps considerably more than that. We're sort of forecast, based on all the modelling, to be around about 55 million by 2028. That's the first year of the AFL, and we're going to be pushing hard to exceed that. In fact, I think we're going to have to exceed that, but our forecasts were established, about 3 or 4 years ago. Where does it come from? Well, the biggest source of revenue is the AFL itself. It's about 22 million per year. That's the dividend you get from the AFL. That is the cheque you receive as a shareholder, basically, or a part owner of which we won. And essentially, that dividend funds your player payroll. And it's worth noting as well, over the next 10 years, the AFL will be putting 360 million into the state. Half of that will come to us by dint of that dividend, and half will be going into regional associations, community football, grassroots, club infrastructure and the like. Club generated revenue, a little under that. I mean, that's, without getting too granular, that's your sponsorship, that's your club membership, it's match receipts, corporate hospitality, merchandise, etc. And the Tas government, there's a funding agreement, 12 million per year. That's essentially the money that's been paid to both Hawthorn and North Melbourne to import content. Where those arrangements lapse, that'll be redirected to the Tasmania Footy Club. Once again, workforce, just to benchmark the bigger clubs, they're big organisations, and they've got big payrolls, and 300, 350 includes the athletes, and you've got a sense of the list numbers before. The average is about 280, and we're going to be about the 250 range. We currently have 50 staff, relatively younger, inexperienced staff, more around marketing. Cass team done an incredible job in building the club from foundations and a really strong brand. And now we'll start to get on with what I call the real business of building our organisation and building our football teams, and that'll be led by some fairly senior personnel and appointments over the next 4 or 6 months. And I just
we'll finish off with impact. Obviously, we get to take questions at the end. So we talk about the future and the opportunity to create impact, but it's really important to recognise we're actually creating impact now. And so this image here, this is 90 students. The Tasmania Academy of Leadership and Sport we launched as a club in October 2024. Last year was our first year. We had 55 students. Now, just like our on-field talents had to leave this island, so has anyone who's wanted to work in sports admin off-field. So people like Brendan and I, probably less so Brendan because he played on-field, but certainly me in terms of off-field. So what we did was we worked in partnership with TasTAFE, who are the RTO, and we developed a dual diploma of sports management and sports leadership. What's really special about this though is it's not just us, the football club. We've owned it and established it, but we've done it in partnership with the Jack Jumpers, Cricket Tasmania and Netball Tasmania. Importantly, 55 students graduated last year, and it hasn't been formally announced yet, but there's been a degree now established with the University of Tasmania. Several of the graduating class of last year have gone on, are about to commence study at the University of Tasmania. And further to that, 70% of graduating students last year are already employed. Importantly, these students would have left the island to study if they did want to pursue sports management, sports leadership. Off the back of last year, we've now got 90 students, as I said, including 28 in Launceston, and the balance here working out of Ninja Stadium 1 day a week and the Forest Building with the University of Tasmania. The class up north are working out of York Park and the River's Edge Building for the University of Tas. We will be implementing further education programs. In fact, we're on the cusp of about to launch 2. They're not formally announced yet, but one will be in the executive space and will credit towards MBA. And the second will be more in the coaching of women, and we are going to move further and deeper into education as the business continues to grow. What we know for these students, and we've been out talking to college students across the state, is they have to have grade 12 to come in, and if they haven't got grade 12, they have to pass literacy and numeracy. And we've had students all over the state telling us they're staying in grade 12 to get into this program. So the power of sport in actually driving education outcomes should just simply not be underestimated. And we're really, really proud of what we've achieved so far, but really what it's showing us is what the opportunity for the future can present. This photo was taken at Orientation Day, Wednesday week ago. So those students will do 2 days in class and 100 hours of work placement. I had a couple of them with me yesterday, Pro League Hockey, meeting CEOs of Hockey Australia, and they were with me, with Raman, getting hands-on experience in the sports industry. You often see these students, you probably see they have a logo on their polo top, and the logos are varied, and it's the sport that they've picked to be streamed to. So some will have netball, some will have cricket, some will have the Devils. You'll see the majority of them will have Devils, in fact the vast majority, and that's because that's the sport that they want to work alongside in order to pursue their career aspirations. In addition to that, when we talk about impact, I don't think we can underestimate the significance of having this number of elite athletes in Tasmania being put into our communities, living, working, playing and spending. There's obviously there's benefit that will come direct and there's indirect, but we firmly believe that the role modelling and aspiration opportunity that comes just by having these athletes in our communities, and we've seen that through the Jack Jumpers, and with all respect to the Jack Jumpers, the size of the football product compared to Jack Jumpers, and the Jack Jumpers will tell you that, we work together very closely, these will turbocharge that opportunity here. In addition to that, what we know is if we can get this humming, we'll be able to generate participation growth across the state. And participation growth is young boys and girls, but it's not just the young boys and girls, it's families, it's mums and dads, it's carers and it's communities. And we're really proud to be able to share that in the first year we started in 2024 when we launched the club, it was a 38% increase in Auskick across the state and a 19% compounded last year. Total participation in football in 2024 went up 27%, and that compounded again by 13% last year. So we haven't even started playing footy yet, and we're really, really confident that we are going to see this continue to grow. And from the footy club's perspective, some of them will make it to the apex, but it's not actually about that. This is about young boys and girls being active, well-being in communities and ultimately connection in communities across the island. So we'll continue to use the halo of the footy club as aspiration. As Brendan touched on, there's significant investment going into, and you've probably seen all the new goalposts going up across the state. If you haven't seen them, we've got a huge list. They're going up in venues all over. And that's also money that's obviously coming from the AFL, and there are other examples of that as well. The last example I want to give on impact is something that might make you all giggle or maybe not, and that's Rumman. So I'm not sure who's seen Rumman. We launched Rumman on March 18 last year, and it's a big green furry devil for those that have seen Rumman. And one thing that I would observe about Tassie, and you're all locals here, is we can be quite binary in our thinking here. You're either one thing or the other, and even worse still, you don't like each other if you're on the other team. And we firmly believe that sport is an opportunity to bring us together, to belong, to create a sense of connection. And so one of the things that struck me for a long time is particularly around art and culture and sport. And here in Tasmania, you're either on the arts team or the culture team or the sport team. Well, we again firmly believe there's an opportunity to bring this together, and that the match day experience we're going to be able to create here will be our own match day experience, not something that we need to import from Adelaide Crows or from Melbourne Demons. And so about 18 months ago, Terrapin Puppet Theatre came to us, and for those that know Terrapin, hopefully you all do. It's an outstanding organisation. And Sam Routledge and Bryony down there had a vision around our match day experience, but more importantly, a vision around how we bring the arts and culture fraternity together with the sports community, and how we build a mascot that was going to challenge the perception of mascots. And you might think, oh, this is just a silly example. Well, 400 hours later, co-designed with school children across Tasmania, Rumman's been created by recycled school uniforms that young people across the state have donated. When Rumman came to market, it was met with furore. He made the New York Times. People were, what is this thing? They said really mean things. You all know this.
Described as a New York subway rat.
They said he was horrible and he was terrible. Well, what happened very, very quickly was we came together, and Rumman now, as some of you know, Rumman speaks Devilish. And you might wonder, why does Rumman speak Devilish? Well, clearly that's because we're working with the University of Tasmania around a literacy program for youngsters to be able to teach Rumman to read and write. So to take away the vulnerability of I'm inadequate, or I've come from a generational particularly literacy or numeracy challenges, and all of a sudden we can engage youngsters through sport and through the power of this creature that they actually designed and can see themselves in. So it's just an example. We're staring into creating a theory of change for our organisation so that we can quantifiably measure the social impact that we will create. We think it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of where we're at. I won't go into many more examples, but what I would say is that impact's not ahead of us, it's happening right here and right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kath. And I think that's our time, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question to the deputation now, and then open it up for the quick.
Yeah, so okay, we do have someone who wants to do a deputation. We'll open the floor for that first, and then we'll have questions. That's all right. So, this gentleman here who'd like to come and speak. Yeah. And he actually. Okay, so basically you have 5 minutes. They will ring a bell at 4.5.
Yep.
If you could.
Yep.
And if you could keep the tone to a good level, that'd be great, given our room can be quite intemperate. Thank you.
Yep, sure. Thank you very much for permitting me to speak to you today. I've been involved, I'm here, I should say, on behalf of Our Place Hobart, an organisation that is opposed to the Macquarie Point Stadium. I've been involved in this debate for about coming up to 3 years now. I've met many, many people who are opposed to the stadium. I have not encountered anybody who has a bad word to say about the Tasmanian Devils team. The support seems to be broad across the spectrum. And I am sure that the Devils team and management want nothing more than the stadium debate to evaporate, for everybody, as they say, to get behind the teams and to forget about the issues with the stadium. I'm afraid that's not going to happen. The stadium is the elephant in the room, and it will continue to be the elephant in the room, and the Devils football team will need to accept it is not a spectator in the stadium's development. 60% of the Tasmanian population is opposed to the stadium on planning, heritage, economic and other grounds. And if the construction ever commences, we'll see a gradually rising edifice that will be a focus of discontent. The Devils cannot walk away from the stadium debate. It was the Devils supporters who pursued the stadium at all costs and in the process unleashed a vitriolic and at times vile attack against stadium opponents and political figures who chose to stand up for what they saw as right. Those attacks were deplorable and the discourse at times was appalling. The Devils have tied their colours to the stadium mast. The team will come at a cost to Tasmania of around $2.5 billion by the time interest and cost blowouts are accounted for and all of the other components of the stadium that are required to be delivered. And that will be paid for by everybody living in this state now, but also our children and grandchildren. And I say to the Devils, it's important to keep in mind, it is not our stadium, it is your stadium and it is the AFL's stadium. We just happen to be footing the bill. The debate over the stadium is not over. The project is already running behind time and is massively over the original budget. They just keep adjusting the budget and it's inevitable it will run over the current budget of $1.13 billion. All of the glossy presentations from the Devils being submitted to the Planning Commission with the support of the Devils, showing the stadium with exquisite landscaping, sparkling material and spacious surrounds are going to be shown to be false and misleading. The whole project is currently under value management because they're cutting back everything on the Devils stadium. I want to point out that the stadium is going to be neither iconic nor magnificent if it is ever built. It will forever be a monument to bad planning and the failure of the Devils to find a way to generate what is comparatively a paltry $6 million a year in revenue. The Devils cannot hide behind MPDC or the government and blame others for the conflict and political dispute. After all, the Devils chose to launch themselves 2 weeks before the 2024 state election. The Devils dived into the political process, but then had the temerity to say they were not political. The Devils have made choices about how to deal with the Tasmanian community, people that support the teams but are opposed to the stadium. They have lost a proportion of that community support because of the way the stadium project has been pushed on by the government, MPDC and the Devils. As a result, it has damaged the brand of the Devils, which is no longer durable. In fact, as the stadium project advances, it will be at a cost to the Tasmanian Devils brand. And that is unfortunate for all of the people that want to see the Devils succeed. We'll probably drift towards the AFL's position across all of Australia, which is that people love footy, but they don't like the AFL. No AFL team has entered the national competition with such baggage attached to it. It's not going to be turned around by merely reciting the same old platitudes and talking about sponsorship and AFL and AFLW games and putting out the same old media releases. The more that that's done, the more apparent it is that the Devils are fighting to maintain or even retrieve public support. People want to see the Devils team succeed and to see them successful, but not on these terms.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you'd like to take your chair.
Yep.
Yep, we have questions now. I'm just going to prepare for that. Thank you. So
questions to the deputy first, or to the who's first?
I think what we might do is do questions first for the team, and then if you're in the next part of the room, we'll bring you back for that. Lord Mayor, Alderman Zuko. Who else do I have? Okay, there we go. Who else do I have? Assault. Harvey. Anybody else? That's everyone for now. Okay, so Lord Mayor, would you like to start with your questions?
Yeah, thanks so much for presenting to us, and great to finally have the opportunity to meet you. And I think some of the issues with the council and its concerns about the stadium probably have meant that it's been difficult for us to connect and talk about some of the other issues. But I think the North Hobart Oval experience that comes up in the next few months will be a really great opportunity to see how the two organisations work together. And a couple of questions just on North Hobart, if I can. The first one was just around it's going to be really great to see how we go on the game day, and obviously the 11,000 capacity, is potentially a challenge. I'm just wondering about the $180 million that's available for the sort of community infrastructure, and to what extent the Devils might be willing to contribute some of that towards North Hobart, just in terms of dealing with this sort of capacity that you're looking at using it for, and the regularity of those large numbers. I'm the #1 ticket holder of the North Hobart Football Club, and I know that issues like the entrance, the one entrance, is not adequate really for those games. So I'm just wondering whether you'd be open, or whoever holds the $180 million.
And this is one of the things I'm learning. There's confusion between our role and the role of AFL Tasmania. So AFL Tasmania are the custodians of the ground that monies, and they, we just sort of get on with the bit of trying to run an AFL footy club. But clearly, it's a wonderful football asset, great history and tradition. We're really proud and excited to be playing there, but it's AFL Tasmania. It'll be considering how those monies are allocated.
So I guess a supplementary on that one would be: would you be happy to support a bid from the council and the North Hobart Football Club to get some of that revenue to ensure that those community facilities can support the AFLW team and the VFL teams?
Look, without knowing, we'd have to have a look, of course, and there's other venues with rightful claims, but I think it's a fantastic venue for women's football, for example. It's right sized, it's boutique type atmosphere, so that's something we'd be open to looking at at the very least.
And you sort of alluded to another question I have just around, in terms of your long-term aspirations for North Hobart Oval and it being a place for the AFLW team, is that something you're looking at?
Yeah, it's in a state of flux. We've got this stadium that's going to be a significant investment, and you want to showcase as much content as you can, football, but clearly Belrive, Ninja, which will eventually come under the management of Stadium Tasmania, which is a statutory entity, but North, it's right sizing, I guess, the venue for the fixture. You want venues where it's full, or it's a great atmosphere. You don't want empty seats. So it's going to be part of the mix. It always will be because of its convenience and location.
Because I think in the economic statistics for the stadium, it did factor in a certain number of AFLW
There will be
games.
AFLW games, yeah, definitely, but it depends on against who, and the sort of drawing power, the sort of forecast attendances, these sorts of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The other one I wanted to just, I put out a call on my Facebook page to see if anyone had questions for you today. And I got a lot of questions, and I'm not going to be able to go through them all. There was a lot around ticketing and membership questions, which isn't really our core business, but I think I'm a community representative, so it's incumbent on me to present these to you. But I wanted to, one that did come up that I wanted to just ask you was around, is the club planning to derive revenue or accept revenue from gambling activities, or the promotion of sponsorship from the promotion of alcohol or gambling?
At this stage, at this stage, no, would be the answer to that.
And given I want to sort of do the right thing by the constituents, are you happy? I'm going to present this to you this afternoon. Would you be willing to take those on notice and maybe provide a written response at some stage?
Yeah, Lord Mayor, worth noting that we're currently on our lap of the map where we're actually addressing these membership questions, and there's an online session on Wednesday or Thursday evening, so I'd be more than happy to provide you with that detail for you to
put on the
suggest that your constituents come into the online session to ask those questions.
And they can
directly.
ask in real time. Yeah, great.
Okay, I might move to Alderman Zuko. If you've got any further questions on Lord Mayor, I'll pop you in the next part of it.
I'll be asking the presenters direct questions in a moment, but I need a question answered before that. I've come here today to have a briefing on the Tasmanian Football Club briefing. Mr. Gale presented the Tasmanian Football Club. I didn't see any photos of any stadium that the government's building. How are we allow a presentation to come forward to go down the track of the stadium when this briefing that I've come here for has got to do with the Tasmanian Football Club? I'm absolutely quite shocked. I've been around this place a long time. If it was relative to this, I can accept it. There's been no presentation on the stadium. I would like an answer to that first, please.
I can answer that, Chair. So, as we do from time to time with our workshop committee meetings, we receive applications for deputations. We received a formal application for a deputation from Mr. Brown. It indicated that he wished to speak to the council relative to the Devils and vis-a-vis the stadium, but certainly referencing the Devils, which he did. And so, as we have with other workshops, we do need to provide that opportunity for the deputation to be heard, which we did, and it's consistent with our usual practice in terms of how we allow those people wishing to present to the council to do that.
It had to do with the Tasmanian Football Club, but I'd accept it, but it had to do with the stadium. I'd like to know, you've got 90 young people in your program. What's your intended growth pathway, if you've got it, if you haven't got it? And also, what would have happened to those 90 young people, if they hadn't have been able to do the program here in Tasmania?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that question, and I just want to recognise Jesse O'Hara in our team who's led that program. I'm sort of speaking on his behalf. He's done an extraordinary job. So at the moment, our RTO, so our training organisation, is TasTAFE, and we're working with them on continuing to grow the numbers that we can have into the program. We're kind of at maximum capacity in terms of what we can operationally deliver this year, but our intent would be to continue to grow, and not just grow that product, but grow other products as well as we expand. So that's the answer to your first question. We've gone from 55 to 90. I'm not sure that it will continue to grow at that percentage rate. That'll be in partnership with the RTO and what we can agree with them. The second question is, well, fundamentally you couldn't study off-field sports management or leadership in Tasmania. So if they wanted to study, they've gone, or ultimately they're studying online. A lot of youngsters do head up to Queensland, and of course, and we do have a little bit of data, but there's also anecdotally what we know is just like our athletes. And in fact, Brendan often reminds me there's only one athlete that played 100 games in the modern era, AFL era, that's moved home back to Tasmania after they finished. And that's Matthew Armstrong, and that actually affects community footy because they're gone as well, and the same would be said for the drain of on-field. I can really proudly share with you all that we've got over 50 staff, and several of them are Tasmanians that have gone away to study sports management and leadership, and this has been the first time they've ever had the capacity to professionally move home. And these are people, you know, I've got a young woman in my team, she's 30 years old, she grew up in Richmond, she moved away to work in study, to work in the AFL system. She's most recently been an FA in working football in the UK, completed her PhD in sports management, and she's moved home to work for us at the age of 30. You know, there's many of them.
FA, I didn't play soccer, I played Aussie rules, okay?
The round ball game.
That's all right. Look, I apologise to both of you because I've got a few questions I want to ask, and I'd just like the answers to them if you wouldn't mind bearing with me. You mentioned the AFL dividends of 22 million, right? is Tasmania getting any bonuses in its dividends compared, because it's a new club? Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
So an AFL distribution is comprised of two sources. There's a base distribution, which is equal, which all teams receive equally, except for 4 teams that receive base minus 2 million. That's Collingwood, West Coast, Hawthorn and Richmond, so they're 2 million behind. Then there's a component of funding called variable funding, and variable funding is provided to clubs based on their deemed level of what they call structural disadvantage. So that might be an expansion team in the north, it might be supporter base size, it might be the fixture, for example. It's a Colonel Sanders Secret Herbs and Spices. So we'll receive the base component, plus we'll receive the average of variable component of funding that clubs receive. So it's somewhere in the middle.
So that means that the AFL is actually giving more funding to Tasmania.
Yes, and then there are some funds associated with establishment, like bonus payment relief, and etc. Getting people interstate here and relocated.
Okay, grassroots football, right? You said there's a 27% increase already in that. I understand the AFL-TAS is responsible for local football, but the restructuring that's happening and proposed to happen going forward, would that have happened if we didn't have a Tasmanian side? Just a thought.
When you mean proposed restructuring?
Well, statewide leagues, restructuring. You mentioned new football posts are going in. Yeah. There's been a 27% increase in. Would this have happened if there wasn't the Tasmanian football?
I think nothing drives the game, and I talk about participation of the game, and I talk about talent growth and even drafted athletes. Nothing drives the game more than the elite form of the game. And I'll give an example. There's some analysis done years ago about the 3 distinct regions of Tasmania and their productivity in terms of football. And it was always the southern region by dint of population. It was the northwest, where I'm from, because there was not much else to do other than play sport and footy. The softest was always Launceston in terms of participation, in terms of quality of teams and draft output. That changed 20 years ago. What do you reckon it changed?
Why? In Tasmania?
Because of Hawthorn.
Well, Hawthorn changed it.
And so the increase in Auskick participation is directly referable to the Tasmanian Devils. I mean, it's gone off the Richter. And it just creates excitement, it creates aspiration, it creates pathways. The growth is wonderful. It's incredible, but it does create challenges because these boys and girls are coming into footy clubs and they need facilities and they need volunteers and parents and.
Just on the Auskick, is the Auskick going to play in the VFL in the half-time VFL? Yes or no?
Yeah, that's currently underway.
Okay, thank you.
On the 21st of March, half-time.
A couple of more questions. I noted your wheelchair teams with a question mark. Could you just very briefly elaborate on that?
Yeah, there's just a thriving. It's the VWFL. It's the Victorian Wheelchair Football League. The VW. It's been going. There's a development league and there's an elite league, and there's 6 wheelchair athletes on the court at one time. They play in a basketball court. They move the ball by handball. And you have 2 able-bodied athletes, so albeit in a wheelchair still. So, and it's great. It's a thriving competitive competition, and it's a competition Richmond were very proud to play and have been quite successful in. Now, as I said before, I think 8 out of 10 Victorian teams participate. It's been replicated elsewhere. Now, whether that's something we can participate in, I'm not sure. I mean, we're always going to have challenges of the size and scale. That's, we're going to be a minnow compared to some of these other massive institutions of 130, 140 years old. But I mean, that was just to illustrate the sort of offerings.
Okay, my last question, and I know you've got about 110,000 members declaring interest. What's the age demographics, the family demographics, and the area demographics? If you've got them, just a little bit on that. Yep.
Yeah, so 216,000 founding members, over 110,000 on Island, 50,000 in Victoria. There's a lot of Tasmanians living in Victoria. 38% women, disproportionate to the AFL average, really proud of that. The composition of age is very much representative of population, and the regional distribution of members across the state is representative of population. So, we do believe that the offer we took to market and the inclusivity allowed whole family compositions to be a part, and our challenge is to make sure that we can ensure that as we go forward. We're particularly keen, very, very keen to ensure that we can keep the gender, if you like, proportions is where they are, because it's a really, really positive thing for the club.
Thank you. Just want to point out, I don't know if you're both aware, but in 2011 I drove the push to get North Melbourne here, first AFL in 30 years, and I've got to say I'm so glad that we're now moving towards the Tasmanian team. Very proud of what you're doing. I'm following you very, very closely.
Thank you very much. And North have done a great job. And
fantastic.
I mean, we had no choice but to import content for years. There was no alternative, and we had to pay a lot for it. And there was a dividend, there was a benefit of that, but now we have a team of our own. And in response to the deputation from Roland, I'm inspired by the support we've had over the last 12 months. The stadium was a divisive issue. People were very, very passionate. We were very respectful of the debate. Issues about stadium progress and heritage and history, and they're not mutually exclusive. We're extremely motivated and inspired for the future and what this club can deliver for this state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Lohberger.
Thank you, Chair. G'day guys, thanks for coming in. I've got a couple of questions. Some of them have been covered by William and Zuko, so it'll be a little bit shorter than that. Look, I might go straight to the deputation, given that you just brought it up. Given the given the economic environment in Tasmania, which is not great, government's got a big debt and they keep squibbing paying it back. So there's, and they keep promising that's going to come. So we are all facing in this room, and I think we're all aware of it for different reasons, the fact that there are likely to be significant cuts to the Tasmanian budget over the next few years. I guess it's probably a question for Kathy. Are you worried, and what's the club going to do if those budget cuts do sort of undermine local support for the club, given the strong focus on the effect of the stadium on the state budget? Because it's something that's going to be coming down the track. It's not right now, you see.
Can I just paraphrase so I feel like I've heard you correctly? Is this as cuts or savings are made known to the broader community, that there'll be a blame on the stadium?
Yes, because everyone will look at the stadium and think it's not as important as health or whatever's been cut.
Yeah, so from a club's perspective, the key thing, I mean, we've put our foot to the floor in terms of acceleration, and that's not for any other reason other than we have to. In order to have our club ready by 2028, there's a lot of work to do. And that's not just building a football department, that's building a whole club and starting to have the impact, etc., that we've spoken about. From our perspective, it's really, really important that we stay single-mindedly focused on that and making sure that we're sharing and bringing community with us. And, no doubt there'll be bumps and lumps, and if it's not, stadiums and budgets, it'll be other things that will be thrown our way. But we will stay focused on that sense of belonging and ensuring that Tasmanians feel a part of this club and that it's going to be worth it.
Sure. I guess the issue is that as the team entry comes closer is when the cuts are going to be happening. It's going to be a difficult time, I suspect. But thank you for the answer. I'm really happy to hear about pokies and gambling at the moment. I'm a supporter of Richmond, but I'm not a member these days because I had a falling out with the club over the pokies. So I didn't think once they hit 100,000 members, they probably shouldn't be doing pokies anymore. I'm really pleased to hear that the club won't be buying into that particular divisive debate at this stage. That's fantastic.
Can I just clarify that too? I just saw the question before. I can categorically rule out any association of promotion of sports betting, which we did at Richmond, and there's no association with gaming, there won't be.
Yep. No, that's excellent, thank you.
Yep.
That's great to know. Final question, it's a bit of a football question, this one. Probably one for you, Brendan. Do you think the roof stadium might act to sort of blunt the home advantage for the Devils team, which of course is going to be the cold weather, sure, and the bad weather? Particularly playing South Australian and Western Australian teams.
Look, I'll be honest, and as a competitor, of which I am one, we want to build a team and teams that can win. That it gives us a competitive advantage, but having said that, you want to create an environment where all people can come to and enjoy. And unfortunately, we've got this increasing cohort of people that go to attend football games. We call them theatre goers, and they want the benefit, they want the accessibility, they want the amenity, and they want the comfort. Me personally, I wouldn't mind putting on a scarf and being having a couple of pots at Customs House and heading over to the footy. I mean, that's sort of to watch, but I think ultimately it's about the amenity for everyone, the people are going to use it the most, and that's the fans.
Yeah. The main reason I ask is because the Tigers were clearly better in the wet there for a few years. And I really enjoy it when it rained if we were ahead. Yeah. Well, that's probably me. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Passage.
Thank you very much, Brendan and Catherine Chair. I've got quite a lot, and I'll go really quick. Some of them just simply thoughts for your take on board as well. I guess I'm really interested, now that it's all said and done, the award's being waived, and you know where we're heading. How do we really squeeze every last bit of social benefit out of you and the club so that no one's left behind? And so I guess some of the first thing that sprung to mind while you were talking was, will there be cheap tickets or even free tickets for socially disadvantaged folk to get them involved at the stadium?
It's a really good question, and we need. I mean, you've seen some of the requirements for Footy Club. This is a not-for-profit commercial enterprise in a cutthroat bridge, so we need to. A stadium is a huge driver of financial performance. It would be a big contributor to our strength and competitiveness. But clearly, affordability, accessibility is crucial for the reasons you're familiar with. So the amount of research and the amount of data and we've digested and consumed and the insights to sort of inform this membership program, I think gets the balance right. So Kath, I might hand over.
Yeah, this question's come up on several occasions, and again we've turned to our friends at the Jack Jumpers who've had a lot of learnings, and I'm sure many of you would know, in terms of not just the capacity of their venue, but ultimately how much membership they had locked up. So I think, and we quoted on this, but I think it's only in the small hundreds of seats that they have available for each game. We're not setting ourselves up with that. We're setting ourselves up with flexibility, and I, like you, I think have a very strong interest to ensure that particularly our youth that need it most have an opportunity to have that aspiration and have that game day experience that could be transformational for them. So we're working on mechanisms through obviously keeping inventory available, but it could be through commercial partnerships to pay it forward, etc., etc. And it wouldn't just be a game. We want to wrap a whole experience around that busload of kids from Smithton or whatever it might be. But it's not determined yet, but it's at the forefront of our.
Yeah, I actually think it's crucial to the success of the team and the stadium. So many people can't access these amazing events that we hold now. The taste is too expensive for some people. The workload is too expensive for some people. So how do we do
Sometimes
that's
young people too. I mean, that's your growth.
Yeah,
that's your
young
future.
people as well,
I mean, and also there's games here like you play Collingwood, Carlton, you can sell it 3 times over.
Yeah.
But there's games, there's going to be less. So there's going to be opportunities there as well.
Yeah, fantastic. That sounds like you're on the right track. And you did mention the Jack Jumpers. One of the things I want to understand and talk about more. Your high point centre is co-located with theirs, or in the same complex?
It's same precinct.
Same precinct, sure.
Yes.
Is there a lot of cooperation between the two entities to try and extract and resource share?
I think there will be. It's inevitable, and I think one of the attractions about Kingborough was there is that potential.
Yep.
There's this sort of makings of a high performance hub and cross-pollination of ideas and athletes, and so I think there's an opportunity to actually extract a competitive advantage there.
Yeah, I think I've probably got 3 more little things to cover off, Chair. One is pertains to sort of infrastructure things. I know that on the mainland, particularly around our AFL, but there's a lot of leagues, clubs, and publicly accessible places that often do a lot of really good community work. Penrith Panthers is that springs to mind. Is there any intention of doing something similar in the future for a publicly accessible venue, club, supporting children,
Well, it won't be a leagues club.
No.
But look, they're extremely profitable, but they're important, members of the community. They do wonderful things. But we're very serious about our community programs. We're very serious about social impact. That's not just a nice to do. That's a reflection of our purpose. That's a part of our club, and that needs to be funded. And we need to find ways to fund that and sustain it. And there might be corporate partners who want to walk shoulder to shoulder on a social issue, or might be foundation, or might be eventually we might have a share in a hospitality bill. I don't know.
Yeah,
we need a walk before we.
That's right. And I guess this next one goes to that same point of crawling before we walk and walking before we run, which is the education programs, which sound exactly what we need to be doing with this type of program. I'm interested for you guys to think, as this might just be thought-provoking rather than needing a response, but how you can encourage more kids to stay in school, which was mentioned in your presentation, Kath, but is incredibly important to Tasmania, but also how you strengthen your relationship with UTAS to offer programs that don't exist on the island, not just sports management, but physiotherapy as well. But there's an opportunity at the university to keep more of our young people here in sports management to potentially leverage some of the unique Tasmanian pursuits that we're very strong at. So golf is big time warming up here, mountain biking and trail running, which are all atypical non-code sports. But how can you make sure that your program is fit for purpose for people who want to pursue those disciplines? And the only other thing I'll leave, because I know I've said a lot, is just to endorse the Lord Mayor's comments around North Hobart Oval. I don't know if you were paying attention during our Capital Works briefing, I'm sure you were. But there was a football and netting football request for behind the goals, I think.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah, about $35,000 that we can't afford.
Yeah.
And so, any money
There's one ends up. Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, no, so we don't.
Is it for the other end?
Well, I guess so. I don't know enough about it. But,
really
but anything that you can offer through advocacy to the Tasmania AFL to support that, which is at the premier venue outside of Launceston and the stadium it's built, would be grateful. And thank you for coming.
Noted.
Thanks, Chair.
Noted.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Kat, for coming along. Interesting talk. I've appreciated what you told us today. The area I want to focus on, because we've ranged all over the place, but I've always got a particular focus, and I brought this up when North Hobart came to see us all those years ago. I'm interested in the ESG stuff, environment, social, governance, and I did ask North back in 2011, whatever it was, what they were doing, and I was very, very underwhelmed with their response, where they said, well, we've got this game once a year where we play, and that's our environmental game, and all of our players wear green shoelaces. And that didn't really touch where I was heading. So I'm hoping that you guys have a really strong ESG stuff. I know your social impact is really impressive so far. Your environmental impact, I'd love to see what you're doing in that space as well. Clean Green, brand of Tasmania. People come here for the environment. They come here, for the culture that's clean and green. So that social impact really clear in my mind, what you're doing there. The environmental stuff, I'd love to hear what you've got up your sleeve, or if you haven't, fantastic. I'd love to have that further conversation with you about what we could potentially do. And you mentioned collaborations. Potentially there's collaborations that we could explore, to do with a local environment, supporting whatever the issues may be, or whatever we decide is there's a commonality.
I think the commitment I can give, or we can give here is yes, we have to, because it's not just about sustainability. It actually makes good business sense as well, and I'll explain why. We're the only club in the AFL that represents an entire state. No other club can claim that. There's 10 teams in Victoria, there's 2 teams in WA. So in a certain way, or to a large extent, we have to reflect Tasmanianness. We have the best of Tasmania, brand Tasmania. So there's an opportunity to reflect that. And so when you think of Tasmania, you think about sustainability, the natural environment,
and the devil.
And it goes to the heart of that. The devil. It goes to the heart of that. And so we need to think very long and hard about the partners we do engage with, because there needs to be that connection in place, and in heritage and identity So sustainability of the environment goes to the heart of our brand, with our footy club. So it will be a major consideration. And that's why we're particularly pleased and proud to announce, say, Blunston as our first major partner. Because it's a Tasmanian company of real history, real identity, and heritage, and still based in, yes, they manufacture overseas, they manufacture here, their headquarters are here. It's a great story. They make great boots, great products. So to have that alignment is in that sweet spot. That's just one example. So it's a commitment I think we have to, because sustainability demands it, but I think our brand does as well.
For example, roadkill.
Yeah, we've kicked off some preliminary conversations with the university and some other corporates that you'd probably be able to work out.
I know you spoke with Bonner on various times, helping get that design.
Yeah, we do want to get a program up around the level, and it's not quite there yet, but there's intent, so we're working on that at the moment. I think too, I mean, we've got a fiduciary, our directors have got a fiduciary responsibility on ESG obligations on reporting now, and I know our CFO, that's very important. We're obviously building new infrastructure, so environmental credentials that come with the TNA and our ability to measure we're going to be in a fortunate position there from the ground up. But I think the other piece around governance is important here. So it's certainly the agreed position of our board to be best practice in governance across the AFL industry, and we've already done some work in starting to establish that. So we are a startup, but I'm happy to have further conversations with you, and again, certainly well and truly in the forefront of our thinking, but more than happy to discuss any elements further.
We might move on to Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, guys, for the presentation. It is quite remarkable, the ripple effect that you described, and I wasn't really aware of today, so that's fantastic. I mean, I grew up in Hobart my whole life, and I used to play footy for North Hobart Little League back in the 60s. I saw the game against WA when there was 20,000 people at North Hobart in 1970, and they won by 2 points. Played Little League, hopped on a bus and drove around to all the suburban grounds in the John Vine era, and John Bingley and all that. And I saw firsthand then the crowds were just huge, the whole fever in town. It's not just at the ground on that day, it's in the press, it's in the schools, it's just everywhere in the shops and everywhere. So and for all this debate, you just don't see that dollar value put on. Not that you can put one on it, but there's a phenomenal social value, and it's all good. I mean, there's no evil there. And I saw that wane for all different reasons why we have seen it. To see this sort of tidal wave of incredible public response, 100,000 people joining up at the first level and all that, it is quite phenomenal. And look, I appreciate, and we're not here, Councillor Zuko, Alderman Zuko said that we're not here today to talk about the stadium. So I apologise if you've been ambushed into that. I assume you were told beforehand that there was going to be someone speaking about that?
We've met every parliamentarian in the state. We met people
that today,
couldn't care less.
Were you aware today that was happening?
Yeah. Sorry?
Were you aware that there was going to be people talking against the stadium?
We're aware. We're just here to give a bit of an update to the council. And,
okay. Yeah, well, I apologise if you feel a bit
don't need to apologise. That's perfectly fine. That's fine.
Well, I respect, I do respect Roland Brown a lot, and I fully acknowledge that, there's issues with people in the stadium. But we're not here today to talk about it. So look, I'll just say about that.
Point of order, Chair. Could Mr. Kelly speak without being interrupted?
Look, I'd prefer that Mr. Kelly, Councillor Kelly actually stuck to the discussion topic, actually, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
And so it's really good. So look forward to seeing more of what's happening here. And it's I don't think you should be an apologist either for what's clearly good work that's being done here. A lot more is going to happen. And look, I just appreciate the time that come in and the facts have been put on the table today. Thank you.
And Councillor Kitsos.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to talk about the stadium again, but look, for some context, I've always been supportive of the Devils. I think it's a fantastic organisation. It's going to do really great things for the state, and particularly really great things for our upcoming students. We just have such a poor literacy rate, such a poor finishing school percentage compared to the mainland, and I think anything that we can do to inspire people to stay in education and to have a career path is just so worthwhile. I really like the update that you gave on Raman today and how you're going to work that into the literacy side of things too. So I want to see the Devils succeed. What I'm concerned about is that I think it's pretty clear that the stadium is going to be a complicated project that is not only divisive but is also going to suffer delays, you know, potentially that extend well past the promised time frame. And I'm really aware that the AFL team that we've been promised is contingent to that stadium being built. So obviously it's past the parliament now, but what does this look like if that stadium stalls for a number of years? Have the Devils got a plan around how to deal with that physically, but also the damage to the brand if the stadium drags you down?
Yeah. Can I just say, the stadium is a set of arrangements between the AFL and the government that gets us to the start line. Well, in fact, gets us into the change rooms, I guess. We're not even at the start line yet. So, you know, the conditions attached, how it's going to be developed, you know, procurement, that's, you know, we're just going to get on now building our footy club. The answer is yes, and those provisions are contemplated within the agreements that exist between the state government and the AFL. There's some milestone dates. They're not going to be met, clearly. There's arrangements to play games at both York Park and Launceston and Belrive until such time as that's ready. I mean, those venues are satisfactory in the short term. A lot of people won't get to the footy, but games that are being played there, they're satisfactory. York Park's about to, was in the process of a significant upgrade. That will be a better football venue than Belrive when it's built, so it's highly likely we'll play more games in Launceston and perhaps overcompensate there early before the stadium. So those delays are contemplated, they're built in, and you know, I think the important thing is there's going to be that much anticipation and excitement about starting, about playing, and we're going to be playing in Hobart, we're going to be playing in Launceston, and you know, the stadium will be coming out of the ground, so there'll be a line of sight, and that'll be exciting as well. So I don't foresee any issues at all. It'll be business as usual for us. The only issue is that because of capacity constraints, you know, we won't be able to capture all that excitement because a lot of people are going to miss out.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing as well. It's lost in quite a few people is that our experience of AFL football for 25 years in the case of Hawthorn and you know, I think 15 or so in the case of North Melbourne was those teams playing what we call low market, low drawing clubs here, because they elect to play the big drawing clubs at their home games in Melbourne where they get big crowds and they get the gate. So we've become accustomed to Hawthorn playing the Gold Coast Suns or the Giants or Fremantle, and there's nothing wrong with that. But clearly you're getting crowds of 10, 11, 12,000. When Tasmania play Collingwood or Launceston or Carlton or Essendon or Richmond or whatever, it's hard to comprehend the difference. And so my only concern is we're not going to be able to share all that excitement with everyone. We'll just have to wait.
Yeah, great. Thanks for your answer. I hope that the delays don't bring the club down and that the Devils' brand can continue to grow outside of whatever happens with the stadium.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Dutta.
Thank you. I'll just ask one question because a number of questions have been asked. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's always good to hear the positives. And I also want to make an observation that it is quite in order, this is practice to have Roland in there as a deputation. So I want to support that. That's what we have been doing all along. And my question is, there was the social impact, and if I can infuse the two, as stated, there's about 60% who are against it. Do you have some evidence yourself with regards to those who really support Devils because I think, for me, it's the Devils team that I truly support. I have great admiration. So that's one thing. And the social impact of, if I've heard you correctly, there's a 27% rise. Is in comparison to other sports, for example, soccer or netball or pickleball or whatever, is it rising in comparison? Do you do
Why don't
that
you have the first
for social impact?
I'll take the first one and then we'll get, you might need to remind me, Councillor. So the first question you asked is in respect to the research, and we often hear this number, about 60% of people oppose the stadium. We said about, and we heard that a lot, so we thought, like we do, we talk to the community. So we actually went out and we had some independent research undertaken, and that was probably around, I think in July or August last year, but I stand to be corrected on the date. And like I said earlier, we're quite binary. But what we wanted to understand was, if you supported yes, we didn't really want to know too much more about you. That's great. If you supported no, why? And fundamentally, we then went on to ask, if your matters could be resolved, your why, what is your propensity to change your opinion or change your view? And that data, we actually released it. It is actually very, very compelling. So because it's not yes or no, it's actually no because I'm unsure of A, B, C, D, E. And we'd be happy to share that research if you felt useful. I'm not going to quote the numbers because it was done in July, August last year. But the numbers aren't what they seem, is what I would share. There were plenty of people that said no, but if the questions that they had could be resolved, their appetite and propensity to change their view on the project more broadly was far higher than we would ever have anticipated. So again, I'm not going to quote the numbers because it's a little bit far back in my memory to get that accurate, but we'd be happy to share that. And so I think, when you look at data like that, which is far more insightful, I would say, than just a yes-no, you actually start recognising where the communications and information gaps and challenges are for the community more broadly. So we found that particularly helpful last year, and we certainly, when we were chatting to people, sharing that information. The second question you asked was in respect to social impact and proportionate rates of increases of other sports. I don't know that off the top of my head, but again, we'd be happy to take that on notice. What we do know is AFL Tasmania set out to achieve 28 by 28, so 28,000 participants by 2028, and that was off the baseline of when the licence was announced, and we're well on track of surpassing those numbers well ahead of time. So the growth rates that we're seeing are higher than what were forecast and anticipated, but I can't tell you comparatively what that looks like for football or soccer or other sports. But as Brendan pointed out, I think the really key thing is, to be honest, if we weren't seeing those growth rates, we'd be worried, right? We've got an elite product coming in, and we wouldn't be doing our job that well if we're not using it as a halo to generate compounding growth. Other sports are probably not in that position to have those levers at the moment, so some sort of comparative potentially might be a little bit unfair on those other sports, I'd suggest.
If I could just add one comment to that as well, and this is another thing that was probably not as well understood. The AFL gets criticised a lot, and to be fair, it should. And I'm not here to defend the AFL. But one thing it doesn't get credit for is it is the custodian of the Australian game nationally. So it funds all aspects of the game. So there's the elite AFL competition, but there's the women's competition, there's state-based bodies, there's regional associations, there's junior pathways, there's Auskick, etc. So some other sports, it's almost like a tribute model. You pay your registration fees, go all the way up to fund, elite teams and national teams. So, the AFL spent a lot of time and effort and money investing in participation because, it's good for the game, but it's a social good they value and think's worth pursuing.
Thank you. Look, I just had one question, and then I was going to pass over to Councillor Elliott. And that was, you've talked about an intake of 55 students, I think, per annum. I was more curious about how many jobs are waiting for them. I worry that, a lot of these types of enrolments, we need to know that they've got something to go to.
Yeah.
And how many years do you extend, or do you foresee that 55 will be soaked up before it becomes excessive?
It's a great question. So last year, 55 students, 70% strike rate on employment. This year, 90 students. What the strike rate will look like remains to be seen, but extrapolate that out. So there's probably a couple of things in that. The first one is now we've introduced not just the dual diploma, but further education, which clearly elongates the education, which reduces the, you see what I'm saying, the number of 55 graduates at the end of each year. So that's a terrific result. And hopefully the correlation would be the more further education, the higher the entry level of employment. Secondly to that, what we found last year with the students that came in is, so it's a dual diploma of sports management and leadership, and so you're automatically thinking they're all going to work in sports. We're using the Devils brand and that of the partner organisations as the lever to get them in, but quite a number of those students, because we have guest speakers come in across all fields, all pursuits, have found themselves not just employed in the sports sector, but other sectors. So we're actually building capability through the optics of sport, some of them to enter the sports industry, of which, to your point, is a limited employment pool as we move forward. This question's been asked exactly of our board, to us as management, because the last thing we want to be doing is creating all this demand and supply, excitement for these students, and then saying actually it's a roadblock, that the jobs are not going to be there. So it's our responsibility not just to feed them through into the entry-level roles in sport, it's to get them into further education and move them into other sectors as well. So hopefully that's...
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
No, it's a very, very valid question, and it would be really wrong of us to be attracting students under an expectation that they might be employed by us if there's a finite number of roles. That wouldn't be fair.
No,
it's also worth noting, Kath, I guess with the stadium, with all the events, the activation that goes around it, not just the Devils, we're creating a whole new sports business, entertainment, culture, economy, sort of overnight. So there's going to be a lot of jobs that need to be filled.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what I figured, but I also figured that 2 or 3 years it'll settle, and then I was just looking how far forward are we going. So
no,
that's
fine.
It's
a good question.
Yeah, thank you. And Councillor Ellis, you had the last question.
Thank you, thanks. Firstly, I want to say congratulations for getting it to this point.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Congratulations for getting it to this point, but also from my perspective, a massive thank you, because as someone Tasmanian born and bred, I've seen and lived this state for a long time and have always seen its potential, and I think that this is going to be such a vehicle to bring Tasmania up to where we rightly should be. When I think about the impact that the team will have on the city, the word that it will mature the city comes to mind, and obviously there's a flow-on effect with the social impact that you're talking about, there's the side issue of the infrastructure that we get, which I'm very excited about, and also the confidence in investing in Tasmania, building in Tasmania, employment, residential homes, commercial, leasing. It's already having a positive impact, and without the team that wouldn't happen. So I just want to say a massive thank you to your whole teams, because I think you've shown from day zero to today incredible perseverance and professionalism, and from a marketing perspective it's been brilliant. I think you've nailed it in terms of building that community support. I haven't been a AFL person at all, but we're members because I'm Tasmanian, and I could never understand the logic getting behind something that isn't from somewhere else, but we'll be behind because it's Tasmanian. And I also like the fact that I'm actually a bit taken aback by how seriously you're taking your sort of social responsibility stuff, and also the responsibility you're aware of, because you are the brand, and I can see that you're taking on board that, because a lot is riding on it. We're going to be heavily watched and heavily scrutinised. A lot of people want you to succeed, a lot will want you to not succeed, but I think the bulk is absolutely behind you. But I think the professionalism and the sort of triple bottom line, or the big picture approach you're taking to it, is really impressive. So please never lose that. The other thing I wanted to thank you for is the initiative and the creativity you're showing around helping the state in terms of our literacy, numeracy, whether it's obesity, smoking, the school attendance, all that stuff is so important. So I think that the investment the community is making through their taxpayer dollars, the investment the community makes through its money at the gate, is very well spent, because we need a course correction in Tasmania. We have a lot of indicators that are not boding well for us, and I think this is a money well spent. And the question I have is how, apart from the obvious thing like community facilities, how can this council help make sure that Tasmanian Devils are a success?
Build some more houses?
Yeah?
No.
No, that's what I mean. Like,
No, that's a
when
good
they
question.
people-
I haven't really, we've just been that head down, bum up.
Yeah.
I think the work around North Hobart, for example, in a short space of time has been really constructive. I think it'd be great for council to, showcasing that wonderful. Well, in all seriousness, we're going to be relocating a whole bunch of people. Professional staff, administrative staff, players. It's a tight housing market. It's a tight rental, and I know I've noted with interest some, thinking long and hard about plans and how you're sort of getting things going and trying to relax things, but that's going to be
So you guys
it's a real area of focus for us. So that's probably.
So you obviously have your plans mapped out in terms of the sort of numbers you expect to be bringing in.
Made some assumptions, but they're a bit crude.
So you'll keep the council in the loop of things like that? Because, the obvious ones are grassroots facilities, so the inspired kids have somewhere to play themselves, and the housing issue, and then there will be parking and things like that. So that's something that I've been looking forward to the debate and vote getting out of the way, so we can then draw a line in the sand and move forward to how we can make it all a success.
I think probably the key wish, and it's fairly uncontroversial, is that people come to the footy for a great experience, and it doesn't just start when they walk in the gate. It almost starts when they leave home.
Yeah.
When they get to the game, they go and have a meal, a glass of wine before. So I just think the ability to mobilise, present, showcase this beautiful city to the 4,000 or 6,000 people are going to be visiting every second week.
Yeah.
And leave them with a really good experience. Now we can control so much.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the key area, and it's probably an area that you want to be involved with, I think, because a lot of your constituents are going to be the beneficiaries of that, I think. Is that you want to be careful?
Can I just ask us, you just mentioned 4,000 to 6,000, I just want to ask about the 4,000 to 6,000 people, is that per week or per every second
For
week?
home game. So typically based on,
so 7
and I worked
times,
at Richmond for years, so when Richmond travelled to Adelaide or Sydney, 4,000 to 6,000 fans, members will go and watch their team play.
Yeah.
And so, so they'll travel, they'll get their schedule, they'll get their Jetstar flights, they'll book them, they'll drive, they'll get the bus,
So from around
so they'll be visiting, and I'd imagine given the excitement.
Interstate, and then
Interstate.
you'll mobilise across Tasmania as well.
Yeah.
And that's just the men's games. You've got to forget. We know how many tickets COVID ever asked for the first game at North Hobart, and it's a lot. So every single game is going to have a migration of people.
So they'll come, and so for example, Hawthorn, recent experience, Hawthorn members or fans, they'll come, they'll watch a Hawthorn game, they'll stay for 3 nights, or north, south, etc. So this is the whole visitor economy. And that's just, and that may present incredible opportunities, but it might present some challenges as well, which are coming right at us in terms of accommodation, hotels and construction, and they'll be staying in around here.
So sorry, I thought you said 4,000 to 6,000 people every 2 weeks, but no,
every home games every second week. Every second week. So 11 home games.
11 home games.
11 home games, 11 times a year. Now, there's going to be some here, some up north.
That's men, and then you get women. We often talk about the home games, but we only talk about the men. We've got to remember the women and all the other competitions as well. Just to add to the response, we've been working with Michael and the team. One of the things that is we're very aware of, and we get reminded every single day, is this is actually creating a new industry in Tasmania. And there's a lot of people that don't understand it. And that's not because they're silly or naive, it's because it hasn't existed here. And so hopefully you saw some data today, maybe that was even interesting to think, I didn't think the organisation was that big, or the turnover, or the payroll, or whatever it might be. So one of the things we've been talking with Michael and the team about is how do we work with your ratepayers, particularly commercial ratepayers, to understand the opportunity ahead of them. And then importantly, how do we ensure that they've got the tools at their disposal to be able to adequately leverage and benefit? Because our absolute hope is that everyone benefits. Some of it will be from inbound tourism, some will be from intrastate. There'll be a range of different ways it'll be for activating retail within there. So I think in the immediate term, and we've been working with the team to set up some sessions around understanding the opportunity, and then how do we start this next period between 26 and 28. Our business plan is called pre-season. This is about testing the organisation, making risks, trying things, making mistakes as we get ready for the main game, which is going to be in 2028. And we've all got to be ready for the main game. And how do we maximise every single moment for an economic or social return for this city and the state more broadly? So we'll start off with the education piece that we're working with the team on, but I feel that there's a lot we can do, to really get the city lit up, ready for this. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move back to I'm now Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and it was lovely to meet you before when you had that focus around women and women in the AFL. That was really wonderful to be a part of. I did just have one, and I do have to agree with Councillor Elliott, your marketing just simply gold, I have to say, just analysing it on various different levels. And of course, some of that has been rather toxic when it's been combined with the stadium, but I think just from talking to various different academics, professionals and researchers around how marketing is done for certain brands and also for sports, I think you've done that really well. My concern just was around what you were talking about with the impact. Oh, actually, it's not a concern, I suppose, it's just a question. You said that there was a degree that was coming. What's the degree?
Yeah, so we're working in partnership with the University of Tasmania, and might I say, our Vice-Chancellor here has a very acute knowledge and understanding of the power of football through his former employer in partnership with Western Bulldogs and Vic Uni, the understanding, and we're doing a lot of work with the uni at the moment. So basically, if you complete the TALS, we call TALS, Tasmanian Academy of Leadership and Sport, you're getting 1 year articulation, then with an 18-month top-up on the Bachelor. It's in the Kobe School of Business, the Kobe. And I'm not going to get this right because they're just actually in the process of changing the name of the degree, but effectively it's in sports management.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's part of a bachelor's business degree, or
Correct.
It's a component of a unit?
No, it's the degree.
Right.
So it's an 18-month top-up off the back of TALS, and you're done with the bachelor undergraduate degree.
Of business?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
all right, cool.
in School of Kobe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you talked about how if you don't finish grade 12, that you can still be part of this leadership program, which will try and assist in literacy, numeracy, and passing that. So and then transitioning into being able to do that degree. I'm just trying to practically in my mind understand how that applies to if you're doing your TCE.
Yep.
And you pass those numeracy, literacy, and those three aspects that are necessary to go transfer into university. How is that going to be achieved with this? Can you just explain it to me?
So in terms of entry into TALS, you either need to have year 12 attainment, so no need for ATAR or you have your TCE, or if you haven't, you have to pass literacy and numeracy tests to get through, yeah?
Yeah. So where do they sit that test?
Through test tape.
Okay.
Yeah, so as the RTO. Yeah. And then you can come in, and if you complete your 1 year of your TALS program, you get your dual diploma, but you also get the year articulation if you then want to top up for the 18-month to get the bachelor degree.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I was just wondering how they get those ticks, those literacy.
Yes, through test tape. Yeah, we've got several mature age students who've had an itch and they've never been able to scratch it in Tasmania. It's been really beautiful. And when I say, I think our oldest student last year was in his 60s. Yeah, so that's been terrific as well. It's good for the youngsters.
Yeah. No, I do like that impact that you're focusing on in terms of education. I think it's really quite important. And I do, so just so that I have it clear in my mind, you said that there was going to be 5 games at North Hobart Oval?
Yes.
So when and then some in Penguin and then York Park and then Bellareef. So when is that all going to?
So the fixture was released last week for
Yeah.
the men and women. First game is on the 21st of March. The women's fixture doesn't start until May the 16th because they finish at the start time at the same time. It's a shorter season. We're going to be playing 6 games in South, 3 in Launceston and 1 in Penguin. And I can't remember all the dates, but what I can tell you about North Hobart is that we're playing 5 games there, and 3 of them are double headers, as Brendan mentioned earlier.
So this is already starting before the 2028.
Yeah, this is on the 21st of March.
So
in 5
this
weeks.
is not part of the stadium.
This is the development competition as
Yeah.
we sort of work our way up. Yeah.
Into the
AFL.
A-League.
Yeah.
This is called the VFL.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's kind of the tier under, if you like.
Second tier.
Yeah, but what I would say is in our VFL and VFLW program, good fact for all of you, we've had over 30 Tasmanian athletes move home to be a part of that program, which again is really significant in terms of the quality of these athletes and people, and they're back in communities and they'll be playing footy for us as of the 21st of March.
So these games that are being played here in these particular parks, stadiums, whatever you want to call them, would they be that will? So when we have the state, I'm just trying to work out in my mind if these games are being played there already from 21st of March, and then we have this specific stadium for the club. Do you think that they could be played in both places, or
would we get
a difference?
So the question would be the VFL crowds.
Yeah.
So in Victoria, the VFL probably doesn't get as big a crowds as we're going to see and experience here in Tasmania. There's a lot of hype and anticipation. In fact, we're expecting to sell out for the first game, and hopefully we'll see good average attendances for all of the games. What that will look like when the AFL and AFLW come in will remain to be seen, and obviously the AFLW is a step change higher. So that needs a bigger venue with bigger capacity. We probably expect that the VFL and VFLW will continue to play at the venues that it's playing at currently.
Thank you. Thanks so much for answering. And I think somebody mentioned it before, the importance of keeping the stadium here and the club here. But unfortunately, those two things have coalesced at some point and have created such a toxic debate around those certain topics, which I'm sure you can appreciate from various different perspectives has not been so kind and also has not been so great for Tasmania in that way as a state. But even though I'm not born in Tasmania, and I think many of us aren't, I think we can appreciate the fact that, this is something that's beautiful in terms of the club. The stadium as a side issue, I think, we'll leave that over there. But thank you so much for coming as the club. And I do wish you the absolute best. I do appreciate that you're trying to do various different things in terms of creating positive impact as a club.
Thank you. I think probably just worth noting, we did put a submission in to the TBC.
Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission.
Upper House committee hearings.
And that was a direct, the basis of our submission was the economics for the club of the stadium. And so
yes, I did read. I did read your emails during that hearing.
Yeah.
Your specifics around the funding and the specific finances. So
yeah. So if anyone is interested, I think it's a.
Yeah. We've tried desperately hard to keep out of politics, which has been very, very difficult. We're running a club and we need to maintain trust. But there have been some parliamentary procedural sessions that we're absolutely invited to be part of and should have. We've made written submissions to those and presented our case as to why and help people form views we can't help. We just get on with our job.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. We're up to 6 o'clock and it just shows just how interested everyone was today and how many questions we all had. So
thank you.
It's much
Thank you for your
appreciated.
time, and we just stuffed a corner. We're happy to
we're ratepayers.
take questions. We're happy to make ourselves available. If you've got any questions, this is a huge opportunity. We need to work together to capitalise. So
Yep,
Thank
much
you.
appreciated,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one little case of housekeeping here, to confirm the minutes. Did we put a motion through for that or not? You did? Good, just making sure, thank you. Okay, so we'll move now to questions without notice. Are there any? No questions about notice? Okay. If there's no questions about notice, I'll move to close the meeting and we'll go to the closed session.
So moved.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now open the closed